You wake up at 3:22 in the morning. Not because of an alarm. Because your body learned a long time ago that sleep is something you negotiate for, not something you're granted. Your phone is on the floor because you knocked it off in your sleep. Before you check the time, you check something else. The account. $214. Rent is in 4 days. You do the math in the dark, lying on your side, one eye open, thumb scrolling through transactions you already know by heart. $214 minus $1,150 rent minus $290 car payment minus whatever groceries cost this week, which you haven't bought yet because you've been eating what's in the back of the pantry for 3 days. The math doesn't work. It never works. But you do it anyway because the act of doing it feels like control, and control is the only thing you have left that doesn't cost anything. You put the phone down. You don't go back to sleep. If that sounds familiar, not the numbers, the feeling, then what comes next is going to matter to you more than any budgeting tip or side hustle list you've ever sat through. This is not about saving smarter. This is not about spending less. You've heard every version of that and none of them changed the 322 math. This is about a number. $5,000. And not what it does to your account, but what it does to the person doing the math in the dark. Because $5,000 is not a financial milestone. It is a psychological border crossing. And everything on the other side of it, your sleep, your decisions, your relationships, the way you walk into a room, the words you use when someone asks how you're doing, all of it is different, and none of it has anything to do with the money itself. If you want more content like this, the real architecture of money, not the motivational version, subscribe now. Not because it helps the channel. Because understanding what $5,000 does before you have it is the thing that gets you there faster. And the people who get there first are the ones who understood what they were walking toward before they arrived. Here is what nobody tells you about living under $1,000 in savings. You are not making decisions. You are managing exposure. Every single day is an exercise in minimizing how much surface area you show to a world that can hurt you financially at any moment. You don't choose apartments. You choose the one that won't evict you fastest if a paycheck comes late. You don't choose jobs. You choose the one whose schedule won't collapse if the car breaks down, because you can't afford a backup plan, so the primary plan has to be unbreakable, which means you accept things you would never accept if you had room to be selective. You don't choose restaurants. You choose whether this social event is worth the risk, and most of the time the answer is no, so you say you're busy, and busy becomes the word that means broke in a language only you speak. Every decision passes through one question. Not, what do I want? Not, what's best for me? The question is, what can I survive? And that question is so deeply embedded in your operating system that you don't hear it anymore. It's not a thought. It's gravity. You don't notice gravity. You just move within it. And gravity, when it's made of fear instead of physics, shapes everything. The way you sit in meetings, the way you respond to texts, the way you negotiate, the way you don't negotiate, the way you say, that's fine, when nothing is fine, the way you stay late, the way you don't ask for the raise, the way you let a landlord keep a deposit because fighting for it would cost more in time and energy than the deposit is worth. You are not living. You are surviving. And the difference between those two things is not a cliché. It is a physiological state, and your body knows which one it's in even when your mouth is saying, I'm fine. $5,000 does not fix your life. Let's be absolutely clear about that. The rent is still due. The car still needs tires. The job still drains you. What $5,000 changes is the question underneath every question. The filter through which every decision passes shifts. Not dramatically. Not overnight. But it shifts. And that shift is the most underrated financial event in a person's life, because it is invisible to everyone except the person experiencing it. Here is what happens the day you cross $5,000. There is no montage. No celebration. Nobody high-fives you. It is a Wednesday. Or a Sunday. Some unremarkable day. You open the app the way you've been opening it, compulsively, fearfully, the way someone checks a wound. And the number is there. 5,000 and something. You stare at it. You close the app. You open it again to make sure you read it right. You close it. You go about your day. But something has happened that cannot be reversed. Your body has received a signal it has never received before. Not, You have money. That's a thought, and thoughts are surface level. The signal is deeper. It's cellular. It says, you have a margin. Not a large one. Not an impenetrable one. But a margin. And a margin, even a thin one, changes the mathematics of being alive. Think about the last time something broke. Not dramatically. Just the everyday kind of breaking that defines life under $1,000. The washing machine stops draining. A tooth starts hurting on a Saturday. The check engine light comes on during the drive home. Notice what happens in your body. The stomach tightens. The chest contracts. Something in the back of your skull goes cold. It's not the problem itself that causes this. It's the knowledge that the problem has no buffer. There is no layer between you and the cost. The cost arrives and you absorb it immediately, fully, with no insulation, and the absorption is not just financial. It is physical. It is emotional. It is the exhaustion of a person who cannot afford for anything to go wrong and yet lives in a world where things go wrong constantly. Now run that same Saturday with $5,000 in the account. The tooth still hurts. The light still comes on. You're still human. But the 10 seconds after the notification are different. Your stomach still tightens, but it loosens faster. Because somewhere underneath the stress, your body knows, this is not going to end you. You can call the dentist. You can pay the copay. You can handle this without rearranging your entire month around one event. A $320 dental bill is not a crisis at $5,000. It's a line item. And the difference between a crisis and a line item is the difference between two entirely different lives happening to the same person on the same Saturday. Here is one people don't expect. When you cross $5,000, you start making better decisions. Not because you got smarter. Because you stopped making decisions from fear, and decisions made from fear are almost always worse than decisions made from clarity. This is not philosophy. This is neuroscience. Fear narrows your field of vision. It makes you choose the option that reduces immediate threat, not the option that serves you long-term. You take the job that pays now instead of the one that builds later. You stay in the living situation that's tolerable instead of looking for one that's good. You accept the terms, the rate, the treatment, the conversation, because resisting any of them requires a cushion you don't have. $5,000 gives you that cushion. Not a large one. Not a permanent one. But enough that your decisions stop being reactions and start being choices. And once your decisions are choices instead of reactions, the trajectory of your entire life bends, slowly, in a direction you actually want to go. Here is something nobody puts in a financial video. At $5,000, the system starts seeing you differently. Not because you told anyone. Not because anything about you looks different on the outside. The algorithm just detects a different signal. Your bank's internal risk model recalculates. The credit card offers in your mail stop being secured cards that demand your own money as collateral just to lend it back to you. The auto loan pre-approval that didn't exist at $300 suddenly exists. The personal loan application that would have been auto-declined now reaches a human being for review. None of this is announced. None of this is fair. The financial system does not respond to who you are. It responds to what your file says. And at $5,000, your file starts saying something it has never said about you before. This person can absorb a disruption. That single sentence, written in data instead of language, opens doors that stay sealed at every balance below it. Then there is the change you feel before anyone else sees it. You stop waking up at 3:22. Not the day you hit $5,000. Not the week after. But over the following months, the middle-of-the-night math sessions start thinning. They become less frequent, less urgent, less gripping. Because the thing pulling you out of sleep was never the dark. It was the pressure. The low-grade, never-stopping, never-named pressure of knowing that one unexpected event would unravel everything. When $5,000 sits in the account, that pressure begins to decompress. And when it decompresses, your sleep deepens. And when your sleep deepens, everything connected to your sleep, your patience, your focus, your ability to listen before responding, your capacity to sit with discomfort without lashing out, all of it repairs. Not because you became a better person. Because the thing that was breaking you stopped pressing. Your nervous system, which had been running threat calculations in the background of every waking moment, finally received a message it could trust. You are not in immediate danger. And that message, received not as a thought but as a bodily fact, changes the texture of every hour you are awake. Something else happens that catches you off guard. The way you exist in social spaces changes. Not because you bought new clothes or changed your haircut. You look identical. Same car. Same apartment. Same everything. But the desperation that used to shape your interactions, the need to be liked, the need to be included, the need to maintain connections because any lost connection was a potential lost lifeline, that desperation loosens. And when it loosens, you stop performing. You stop laughing at jokes that aren't funny. You stop agreeing with opinions you don't hold. You stop attending events you can't afford because the fear of being the one who wasn't there felt heavier than the charge on the card. You stop shrinking in rooms where you feel outranked, because the reason you were shrinking was never about those rooms. It was about the knowledge that you couldn't afford to lose access to them. $5,000 gives you the ability to walk away. And the ability to walk away is the only thing that makes people treat you as if you belong. Your relationships shift. Not all of them survive. Some people in your life were anchored to the version of you that was always available, always flexible, always willing to split things unevenly, always the one who accommodated. When you stop being that person, some of those connections loosen. That is not a loss. That is a diagnostic. It tells you what was actually holding the relationship together, and in some cases, what was holding it together was your inability to leave. But the relationships that remain, the ones built on something real, those get better. You're more present at dinner. You're less reactive. You don't snap over a small thing because that small thing used to land on a nervous system already frayed from months of financial pressure. The pressure wasn't just in your account. It was in every room you entered, every conversation you held, every silence you filled because empty silence felt too close to the silence you sat in at 3:22 doing math in the dark. Here is the part almost everyone misses. $5,000 doesn't just change your present. It changes your relationship with time itself. When you have no savings, time is the enemy. It is the thing passing while you're still behind. Every month that goes by without progress feels like a month stolen. You work, you pay, you survive, you repeat. The account starts at one number and ends the month at roughly the same number, and the effort of maintaining that number consumes everything you have. You are not building. You are treading water, and treading water is the most exhausting form of stillness that exists. The moment you have $5,000, you cross from treading water to swimming. And swimming changes how time feels. A person surviving sees time as something being taken from them. A person building sees time as something working for them. The first time you watch $5,000 earn interest, even small interest, even $16 in a month, something clicks. Not because $16 is life-changing. Because it is the first time in your adult life that money arrived in your account that you did not work for. That moment rewires something. You understand, for the first time as a lived experience rather than a concept, that money can grow while you sleep. And once you understand that, the gap between you and the edge widens every month without additional effort. Not fast. Not dramatically. But consistently. And consistency, in a financial life, is what compounds. You will hear people say $5,000 is nothing. That it's not real money. That it doesn't move the needle. That wealth starts at 6 figures or 7, and anything below that is just survival with extra steps. Do not absorb that. Not because they're wrong about scale. At $5,000, you are not wealthy. You are not finished. You are not free in the way that word gets used in finance videos. But those people are misunderstanding what $5,000 actually is. It is not a net worth number. It is the first piece of evidence in your own name, in your own account, visible on your own screen, that you are capable of keeping money. That sounds simple. It is not simple. Before $5,000, part of you does not believe it's possible. Not in general. For you. You have watched money arrive and disappear your entire adult life. You have told yourself you would start saving after the next raise, after the next month, after things calm down. The story always had a next chapter, and the next chapter never came. $5,000 is when the story ends. Not because the money solved everything. Because you look at the number and there is nothing left to tell yourself about whether you're capable. The proof is there. And the people who go from $5,000 to $25,000 to more, they are not smarter than you. They are not luckier than you. They just stopped stopping. They hit $5,000, believed themselves for the first time, and kept going. The number was never the engine. The belief was. One more thing. This one is uncomfortable, so stay with it. $5,000 will show you who you have been spending money for. Because once the survival filter lifts, once you stop running every decision through, what can I survive, you will start noticing something that was there the whole time. Some of the money you spent was never for you. It was for a version of you. The dinner you couldn't afford but attended because being the person who wasn't there felt more expensive than the bill. The clothes you bought because the ones you had made you feel like you were falling behind, and falling behind was the one thing your body could not tolerate. The thing you put on the card because saying no would have meant explaining, and explaining would have meant admitting you were closer to the edge than anyone knew. When $5,000 sits in the account, the performance starts thinning. You see it clearly. The people you were spending to impress either didn't notice, didn't care, or were running their own version of the same math in their own dark at their own 322, keeping it just as quiet. Every dollar you spent constructing a version of yourself that wasn't real was a dollar that didn't go toward building the version you actually want. From $5,000 forward, the spending changes. Not because you learned discipline. Because you lost the fear that made the spending necessary. You stop buying the feeling of okay. And you start buying actual life. That is the revolution nobody talks about. It doesn't make a sound. It doesn't announce itself. But it is the most significant financial event that will ever happen to you, and it has nothing to do with money. You wake up. It is a Tuesday. 7:15. Your alarm, this time. You open the app. Not because you're afraid. Because you're curious. The number is there. Still growing. You set the phone down. You get up. You make coffee. The water bill is coming. The car needs brakes before winter. There will be a month ahead where something goes sideways. Something always does. You know this. And for the first time in your adult life, knowing doesn't tighten anything. Not because everything is solved. Not because $5,000 is a number anyone would envy. But because you carry the quiet certainty of someone who has seen the evidence in their own name that they can handle what is coming. That is $5,000. Not things. Not status. Not freedom in the way the word gets thrown around. It is the calm of a person who stopped reacting and started choosing. The math you used to do in the dark at 3:22 in the morning has a different ending now. You close the app. You make coffee. The ceiling you used to stare at doesn't enter your mind. That is everything that changes. And it starts with one number. Yours.